All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Urfspace Live with me, your host, Chuck Whelan. Today, we're going to have special guest Phil Longmeier, who's an illustrator. I know him from online and on Facebook. So I'm going to get to know him a bit better and learn more about his work. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about what I've got coming up, which is the Kickstarter for Astro Kitty in Urfspace. I'm going to bring up my little desk camera here. Hopefully you can see this over on the side here. All right, here we go. Here it is. All right. Oh, it's flipped there. All right. Well, hang on. Let me unflip that. Hang on. Slowly this morning. There it is. All right, there she is. Okay, Astro Kitty and Kickstarter. Astro Kitty and Urfspace Kickstarter will be launching on Tuesday. Here's the book. I'll give you a quick flip through here. In fact, so look, here we are. It's 144 pages, color, art. There's some stuff in there about Space Gen, Henrietta Kuhn, Urfspace 5, a few little comics in there. Not a whole lot of comics, but there's lots of little stories and different cartoons. And then in the back, there's sort of sketchbook drawings. So there we go. I've got a little video to show you. So I'm going to show you that, and then we'll be back and we'll talk with Phil Longmeier. Oop, there we are. Oh. All right, so there we go. That is Astro Kitty Urfspace. There's a link for that. It will be astrokitty.co. AstroKitty, ASTROKATTY.co. That'll take you to the pre-launch page, and I'm going to be launching it live on Tuesday. So more about that in Phil Longmeier here. So that's nice. Thank you. You put some applause there for us. Thank you. All right, here's Phil. I'll put his drawing up there. I'm going to draw. We're going to draw. We're going to have a draw today. Oh wait. Oh okay. You producer. You do it. Yeah. Sorry, I was doing it. You do it. There we go. Thank you. All right. Very good. Hello, Phil. Oh, hello. Here's Dale trying to reach me on Messenger. All right. What? We'll get in. He probably needs the link. Hang on. Oh dear. What a disorganized show this always is. All right. Hang on. All right. You need.
I'll fit right in.
That's Dale ringing me. Hang on.
We're the worst show ever with the best art ever.
Yes. Yeah, what we make up lack for in technical skill, we make up for in art skill. All right, I'm trying to paste that in for Dale. There we go. There's the show link. Why does he never have the link? I don't understand it. So I have to post.
Well, what I don't understand is why he should just be like in the team. Like he should just be able to click in. Like I'm able to just click in every time.
I mean, he's continually giving everybody technical advice. Dale's a big fan of. He's more digital methods. Phil, he likes to use Clip Studio Paint, and I don't know. I believe it looks like you're drawing analog techniques there. I went a little digital for a while, but I'm sort of back to analog mostly now.
I've been threatening to go Digital. I have everything set up to learn it, but I've been kind of busy lately, and because I've been busy, it keeps me from doing other things. So it's kind of a curse of being too busy, I guess. But I do want to learn it. I do want to learn it.
Okay, I've got a message from Dale. He's trying to call me. I'm just going to message him that the show started. Yes. So Phil. Yes. So we were just talking a little bit off the air, and you were sort of saying how you did conventions more regularly, and then you stopped doing them around 2008.
Right. The market kind of fell out, and I used to earn. I mean, it was certainly nothing. I couldn't live off of it. I had a 9 to 5, but I'd pull in a couple of grand every show, and it worked out well for me, and it was fun, and it was I made some money, so that was kind of nice. And then around 2006 or so, I noticed a lag, and I attributed it to the internet because people could go to the internet and get stuff for free at that point. And then as the next year came, it was a little less. And then finally in 2008, I barely made enough money to cover the cost of the table and the parking. So I decided at that point, I was just going to kind of concentrate on other things. And I did. And actually, I started paying more and more attention to freelance work from people coming to me to get me to do projects for them. Most of them are personal projects, but some of them were professional. I've had several books, or my art's been in several books. So I just don't do the circuit anymore because it just doesn't make any money. Now, if for some reason I found out that the audience was back, I might try it again.
What were you selling when you were like making?
Okay,
were you selling prints?
No. Actually, what I was doing is I was drawing images for people at the convention. They'd come up to me and they would say, "Oh, I want this, I want that, whatever." You've probably seen this kind of thing before. And then you draw it for them, and they come back and pick it up. And the thing I had going for me is that I'm actually rather fast with my illustrations. So if somebody asked for something, I would just get out the pens and the ink and the brushes and stuff, and I'd have it done in probably about 15, 20 minutes. And the people around me didn't like that because I could crank out illustrations very quickly, and they would be taking an hour to do something that took me 15 minutes. So I could turn around 4 illustrations in an hour to their one. And one guy told me at one point, he said, "You're not charging enough. You're not charging enough money. You're making us all look bad because you're not charging enough."
Oh, how much would you charge if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no, I don't mind. If it was for like a 15-minute illustration that was penciled and inked, probably about maybe $30 or $35. And those guys were going for like, I want to make 100 every illustration. It's like, well, that's fine. But when people come up to you and see your price, they're going to back off. And when they see my price, they're going to go, okay. So, but they were a little bit PO'd with me because I would crank stuff out and make some money where they weren't. Not that they weren't any less talented than I was. They just weren't as fast.
Well, I mean, yes, I'm definitely also of the sort of do 'em fast sort of school. I guess that's why I like comics. It's sort of telling the story. I've got sort of an idea of some sort of an image, and I sort of realized fairly early on, I'm never going to be Mobius or like one of these guys that's just like amazing at like rendering. So I don't know. I just sort of go for it. And I don't know. Then I've like, then there's something that comes out of speed though as well. There's a sort of slow, careful way of doing it, or there's a sort of speedy way of doing it. And they both, it's like music. Music can be played slowly or fast, I suppose. And the composition is a sort of separate thing in a way.
Your art though is really nice. I like actually. You talk about the fact that you do things kind of quickly, but I think that's to your advantage. I think it really gives it a sense of life. I really, really like your illustrations quite a bit. So the few I've seen, that you put on Facebook and everything. Very, very nicely done. And that's what attracted me to talk to you in the first place, because I really, really enjoyed your style.
Oh, thanks. Well, Phil, the feeling's mutual. I really love your work as well, and yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, this guy likes my work. That's cool.
Well, yeah, it never hurts. It never hurts to have somebody say they like what you're doing.
Yes, and we've seen to yeah, I've sort of gone in different directions. I mean, like similarly, I like sort of kind of a cartoon fantasy, I suppose, is where I kind of come back to a lot. And then I sort of do this work I've been doing for Goodman Games a lot recently. I sent like about 20 years ago, again, probably, well, it was before 2008. With Goodman Games, it was probably like, I think more like around 2004, 3 or 4. I sent out a bunch of, I did a couple of paintings. I did one sort of good one and some other things. I sent it around, and I got a few work from some people, including Goodman, he was sort of a few additions into Dungeon Crawl Classic. He'd done 1 or 2 or 3 or something. And he quickly started using me, and he's done very well and grown his business very well. Then I got some work from others as well, but like his was the one that really still seems to stick around. And and then I got work from Dover, so he was quite early on, and then I would get work from like children's magazines. I sort of went out after that. One of my early jobs was doing book illustration for like language teaching books, and then I sort of came here and I worked in sort of print and graphic design. And I would do convention. When I did my webcomic Pupil, that was in the early 2000s. Really, I did it as a zine in the 90s, and then I sort of put it on the web, and then I was sort of regularly on the web daily, from around about 2000 or so onwards for about 4 or 5 years. Okay. And then I'll just sort of keep rerunning that over the years at different places. I would do conventions. I would stop doing conventions really, and about, I don't know, I was still doing, while I was doing Pupil, I would still do them, but then I sort of finished actively doing it. I was getting more busy with work. I became a parent, so I didn't do so many conventions, but now I'm starting to do a few more. But yeah, I didn't do them for
like I said, if I got the inclination that things around here, I'm in the Chicago area, Illinois.
Okay, yeah.
And we have a couple of big conventions here, and we have the Wizard World, and we have C2E2. And I've never worked C2E2. I've been there a few times. It's massive. It's huge. The one I was used to working with, the Wiz World, I'm not even sure if that one even still exists anymore. I think it does.
Wiz World, yes.
Yeah. Is it in the Chicago? I guess it still is. I think I see ads for it every summer.
But they still, because wasn't it related to Wizard magazine that they would do?
Yes, it was. And that's why I'm not sure if it's, is it, have you heard, is it still around?
I thought that magazine went away. I don't know. All I know I have of it is I have some books that they published collecting articles they printed in about how to draw articles. Like each week they'd have a different pro artist give a sort of 2-page or 1-page tip sort of article, and those collected. And those are fantastic tips. Those are like all the tips and pros, yes.
Well, as long as it's not people trying to become artists by using AI, that's one of my big pet peeves these days.
Okay, yes. Well, I was getting a bit told off by Stan Yan last week because I had like my normal titles for the show. It opens with a little AI sequence that I put together. Oh, a bit cheeky.
Yeah. Well, no.
It's a bit cheeky.
That kind of thing is fine.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna address it on the show because sort of Stan sort of queried me about it. He said, "Oh, you're using AI," and yes. So we've had a lot of discussion about AI on this show. If anybody, I didn't show it today, but maybe I'll retire it now. But I'd also had this sort of little idea for an opening sequence for my video, and it had been in my head for a really long time. Like, I don't know, I want to say about 10 years. I sort of thought about this sort of little idea about a monkey sort of scratching on the rock, and then you sort of go through the hole, and it sort of like loops back to him on the island. And I thought, if I was actually going to animate that and draw it and animate, I sort of started. I thought that's going to be like a year's worth of work. to make this sequence. And then AI came along, the AI videos. And I thought, well, I just sort of thought about it. We were sort of talking about it and discussing on the show. Obviously, there's a lot of people upset about AI. I'm sort of generally a little more sanguine about it than most artists, I suppose. I definitely 100% agree about the copyright issue and the copyright theft, but I just think it's going to take everybody's jobs. Like the fact that it's doing art, that's just because that was sort of easy to teach it, and artists are easy to rip off.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, it's not really teaching. It's just giving the AI the internet as a smorgasbord of art to work from, and then it just takes it, kind of slaps it all together and makes it into whatever you want it to be. But my whole thing is that animation that you're talking about, that really doesn't bother me so much. I know that's probably, I mean, if you wanted to have it done and you did it yourself, you're right, because I used to do the animation too, and it can take a long time to get anything done.
It took me a day to do. So it took me one day of playing around on it to make a sort of one, like, I don't know, like whatever. This little sequence I wanted to say, there was sort of number of shots I wanted to have. I got all those shots just to sort of see what this tool can do. And I banged it together. So I do have that, and it is a sort of there as a bit of a discussion point, because and I sort of have a challenge out that I put out to any AI artist saying that I can do a better job than them in like 10 minutes. So talking about you might want to join me on that one, Phil, because I don't really care if they win or not. It's just more the point.
Yeah, well, like I said, the thing about AI, my biggest pet peeve are these guys that use AI, and then they say, well, look at what I created, and it's like, well, I don't agree with that. You didn't create anything. The computer, you asked it to do something, and it did it. As far as using AI for something like what you're talking about, I don't have a problem with that specifically, because that's something technically that you could have done on your own. You just didn't do it. I mean, because of time, I understand that. Animation, I animated something. I used to do little short animations, and they could take months to get something done that would probably take all of 2 minutes to show, So I get it. I understand what you're saying. But when it comes to actual illustration, just
I was going to say, sorry, I think we're overlapping a bit, but sorry, no, I lost my point. What was I going to say? Good results. I mean, the only good results I've seen from AI have been done by artists who are already quite competent. There's a guy, I think, Tim Malloy, who was doing the kind of weird things, and then he got into that. And and I know there's a guy I know who sort of worked with AI for a long time, since since the early 2000s at Our Modern Tales, and he sort of got into doing AI, and so he's sort of developing other things. But again, that's like he's sort of putting his own things into the AI.
Sure.
So the copyright theft is an issue that has to be resolved by lawyers. But I don't think we're in a climate where the Copyright Office, I've had my own issues with them. They're in a total mess. I mean, it's not going to get sorted out. I mean, copyright, whatever copyright was, the internet's sort of broken it, and this has completely broken it.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is, I mean, using it as a tool is fine. I mean, everybody uses artistic things to help them with whatever they're doing. Photoshop and all those kinds of things are all being used by people. As a matter of fact, I used to be angry at Photoshop back in the 90s, because I lost my job at the time to Photoshop. So I was a little on the angry side at it, and I didn't use it for years because of it. And then I started to realize, hey, this is actually a really good tool, and it really helps out a lot. So you have to kind of get over that as far as using it as a tool.
No, never get over your bitterness.
Dale likes to hang on to bitterness and nurture it in case it grows into something that will destroy the world one day.
Bitterness keeps you warm at night.
Well, I as far as Photoshop is concerned, I absolutely got over that. But the other thing, you're right about one thing. AI is here to stay, and it's not going anywhere. And there's really nothing you can do about it at this point. And I don't even know what there is going to ever be anything you can do about it. I just I want the AI guys to, when they. Well, let me give you a good example of what I'm talking about. Back when I used to go to the conventions and work the shows, I was the AI. A guy would come up to me and he would prompt me with, things he wanted his illustration to look like. And then I would do that thing and he would come back and collect his art and everyone was happy. Now the AI is kind of taking that away. But it's the attitude of the guys that asked for the art that drives me the most crazy, because they make it sound as if they did the work. And it's like, no, you didn't do the work. You're the guy that came up to me in the convention and said, I want Spider-Man, blah, 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 doing something. And that's basically what it came down to. And they're going, well, no, I created this. It's like, no, you came up with the prompts and then it created it. You didn't do anything to draw it. You just did it, from describing it. So, and I don't have a problem with that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just don't turn around and say, now I'm a great illustrator, because you're not.
Okay. Well, again,
you're a customer.
Yes. No. Okay. So look, it's true though, but I'm going to defend AI because no other artists.
Yes, he likes to do the thing that nobody else does.
Slightly valid. Like, some of the arguments are slightly valid in that what every artist does, we all look at everything else and we sort of process it in our human brain and then we sort of regurgitate it in our own way. And so somewhat it is doing the same thing. And also, if you try to make something good out of it, you do have to sort of kind of work at it. And when you actually get it, like my video, by the time I got it all together, it's like, I made that video come out the way that I want it. It's hard. Like AI doesn't sort of give you what you want it. You have to sort of guide it, so it is a sort of a tool, and you have to, you have to sort of master that tool. So you do get a sort of sense of like artistic accomplishment from doing it. I'm just being a horrible devil's advocate. Like, who's the most,
I get it.
Completely innocent throwing the first stone. But Phil, you seem like you are more innocent than most, because I often say, like, people who got pissed off at Photoshop, and you exactly one of those people.
Oh yeah.
Well, what was your job you were doing?
I did. I was mad at Photoshop for years, because basically what happened was I used to work for a package design company, and I did all their marker renderings and things of that nature, their art stuff. And then they got Photoshop in and they didn't need me anymore, because the designers who normally weren't very good at illustration, they could just go into Photoshop and bang out some stuff, some shapes and this and that and the other thing. And they're like, look, we can have this. We don't need him anymore. So that's why I was a bit miffed at Photoshop until I learned to use it. And then I was like, oh, now it's great. I love Photoshop now.
Well, I think that's sort of what's going to happen. And I think at the end of the day, I think good artists will be good artists. It will enable a lot of that. It will enable a lot of people to produce a lot of crap. But in the end, that will probably only educate people better about what's good. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm just eternal optimist.
I hope so, because like I said, the idea of AI going out and gleaning all that, artistic information, it is kind of disheartening, because some of that stuff, I mean, I don't know if any AI has ever looked at my work and used it. I kind of doubt it. But the idea is that those artists that used all their time, and as you pointed out, if you wanted to do animation and you did a nice little animation for the beginning of your show, and then somebody came along with AI and let's say you didn't use AI. Let's say you used your own sweat and blood and tears to get that thing out there.
Yeah, I worked on it for a year.
Exactly. And someone came along and said, well, by the way, someone who, and maybe I'm gatekeeping here. I don't mean to. I really don't. But I like to think of artists as being people that have taken the time to develop an actual talent of actually knowing how to draw if they want to. And then you use AI as a tool to help further that, which is fine. But if you go in and you draw stick figures and all of a sudden, you have a really nice illustration of whatever, and you go, see, I did that. It's like, well, no, you didn't do that. You just had somebody else do that for you. But I can't see it as a tool. So I do agree with that.
Yes, I mean, and there's different, like, someone who's drawing stick figures, they might be more of a writer anyway. And that's the thing with comics, I find, is like, comics is always the sort of people who want to be both writers and drawers, which is good.
Right.
But some people sort of lean more towards the writing, some of the drawing. And, there's a lot of sort of quite crummily drawn comics which is being done by someone who's writing it. So if that writer can now use this tool to, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, again, it's not so much about the tool for me. Definitely about the copyright issue, and I sort of see the future of the internet where all artists are better remunerated, is fed into a machine. But yeah, I mean, Judge Dredd, I mean, I talk about this too, but Judge Dredd had a story about it, in the 1980s, somewhere around 85, I think, where, Kenny Hu comes to the big city from the Cal Hab. He's very tired after his journey on the transatlantic Zoom tube. But he goes up to the big publisher to show his art, and he falls asleep waiting for them to look at it. And the art director comes along and has a look at it and goes, "Oh, this is good." And he feeds it into the computer, and then he gives him back the portfolio, wakes him up, and says, "Sorry, we're not interested." And he takes the
right, because we already have it. We already have it.
And the moment he's out on the street, he sees all his art is everywhere on all the billboards because it's that quickly, the computers. But it's not his; it's like his style. And and then he goes back and he's getting mad at them, and Judge Dredd has to get called in. But they're like, "We didn't break the law."
I was gonna say, who died in that episode?
Yeah, I can't remember. Well, I think that they weren't allowed to feed it into their machine. That was the sneaky bit. But yes,
right.
I can't remember what the resolution was. But I remember that story It struck me at the time as like, oh, and that what's wrong with Judge Dredd is he keeps coming true. So yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes when you look at some of the stories from back in the day, some of them have definitely come true. That's for sure. And unfortunately.
Yes. So what comics and things or did you like to look at? What inspired you?
I got inspired by lots and lots and lots of different stuff. I mean, like a wide variety of things. I'm a big fan of Eric Powell that does Goon. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes. The Goon. Yes, I never really read that much, but yeah, I like his style a lot. Yeah.
The thing about the Goon. Okay, so in a way, have you ever heard of Michael Gilbert?
No,
he did a comic book called Mr. Monster. And the Goon and Mr. Monster are very similar in that they do have a tendency, each comic has the character going out and fighting some creature, okay? And their styles are wildly different, and yet they're both very attractive to me. The Goon is just so outrageously drawn and expressionistic. Is that a word? I don't know. And it has a really interesting. He has a really cool movement. The way he makes his characters move really makes me very happy. I like to look at his work a lot. I've never used him as an example of art to glean from, but when you look at his work, it's like, oh, I want my characters to move like that, because they're the way such expressive, movement, like I said. And then Michael Gilbert, what I liked about his work is his art is really good, but actually his writing is even better. The writing in his stories is very clever and humorous. I like a lot of humor in my comics. So I like that. I like Gru, the Wanderer by Sergio.
Oh, now you're on safe territory there because Dale is a huge Sergio fan.
Oh yeah. His work. The thing I like about his work so much is the fact that he is obviously creating this stuff on the fly. I mean, his work is very quick. You can tell by the strokes of his pen. It's very quick work, but his compositions are amazing and his detail is amazing. I love the fact that he'll sit there, at least he used to. I don't know if he does this anymore, but in his title page, he would have like the title of the story, whatever it was going to be. And around it, he'd have all these like little warrior women with their swords drawn and stuff. And they're these little tiny illustrations, but they're so well done. So yes, his work above everybody else so far has inspired me the most, I think.
Yeah.
Growing up though, I was a huge fantasy painting guy. So Frank Frazetta and Saint Julien, a lot of the guys that used to work for Eerie and Creepy magazine back in the 60s and 70s and the 80s. I loved all their work. It was so much fun to see what was going to be happening in the next episode or the next issue of one of those, and then I would actually go out and collect their works and the books they put out. They're with the color plates on the inside and everything. So yeah, all that stuff. Like I said, it goes from fine art painting all the way down to rather simple but well done illustrations of little warrior men running around. So yeah, that's my inspiration.
Oh yes, well yeah, I loved all that sort of fantasy art, like particularly like Roger Dean though, and Rodney Matthews. I had those books. I would really pore over, and the sort of related stuff like that. Those sort of album cover art books and things.
Yeah. Oh, Roger Dean.
There's a number of those sort of 70s illustrators that I love. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the past I've actually just bought albums back in the day because I like the painting on it.
Yes. Oh yeah. No. Definitely. I'm like with like heavy metal music. I was like, I don't really know if I like this, but I like the album covers.
Yeah, I like the art.
But the music's grown on me definitely over the years. Now I love it. But yeah. I definitely was more about the art for the first.
Sometimes you just take out the art, the album, just to look at the cover. It's like, okay, cool, very cool.
Yeah, that was Chris Ocula.
Yes, like Iron Maiden.
Oh
yeah, definitely Iron Maiden.
No God.
With that,
that's taking me
character, back. That rule. Yeah.
Yeah, Iron Maiden. Yeah. So all that stuff, very inspirational to me. Very. I wouldn't say it shows up in my work so much, but it's just the kind of thing that you like to go in and just really study it, really look at it and see the technique the guy used and the because I've always been a big fan of like watercolor work. I think you get very expressive stuff out of watercolor. I'm not particularly good at it myself. I'm more of a black and white guy. And if I want color in my work, I do that in Photoshop or something like that. I'll put it in that way. I don't do much wet work anymore.
Yeah.
Wet work to me is I can't control it as well as I'd like to.
No, I've been I've got back into it again, like I say, like just the sort of inking and then with the watercolors. I mean, they're definitely best to keep them simple. Like, yeah, if you sort of build them up too much, they sort of go muddy. I mean, I've been quite sort of experimental with them. Lately, though, I found that you can, take them into Photoshop once you've done them and then really sort of clean them and polish them up.
Yes, exactly.
And that actually is quite a good way to go. So, yeah, I'm sort of leaning into that a bit at the moment.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I've as a matter of fact, I recently did something very different that I've never done before, and that is paint flowers. I am not a painter of things of that that normally that with that thing, but it is it's something that I sat down to do because I wanted to give it to my wife as a gift. So I sat down and I started doing this, and it really took a different gear. I mean, like a really different gear to do the thing I wanted to do that I had in my head. And when it was all done, you scan it in, and if you want, you can go in there and clean it up and pop the colors a little bit, or maybe some contrast here and there. So yeah. But yeah, that's definitely something that I would do if I was going to do more wet work.
Now, Phil, I'm drawing your character here because you did a great version of Tina the Warrior Princess, who I'm going to show that to everybody now. Hang on. Here we go.
I really like that character because the thing that I thought was the most intriguing thing about it was the two little babies strapped to her back.
Yes. Well, yes. So I'm writing a story. I've written a story now about how they actually met because I never did that story. I sort of started Pupil. I'm going to do a Pupil Volume 0, like I'm talking about Astro Kitty Kickstarter. My next one, if this one's successful, so people have to go back this one, but my next one's going to be Pupil Volume 0, where I did my first one I did was a 10-page or so story that I wrote, and I sort of penciled it out and I started inking it, and then this is too hard. I don't know what I'm doing. And I sort of stopped, and then I rediscovered it recently, and I was, I can just finish this really quickly now. I sort of read it, and it made me laugh, and I was like, I finished it in very quickly. So that's quite good. So, and then I've got like another zine that I did. The first, I sort of rebooted and did a 20-page one. with Pupil, and there's that. But then the next one I did, suddenly Tina, the Warrior Princess, is there because I met my Tina, and but it's sort of funny. It's almost like I had an idea of a character like that I was going to bring in, and then suddenly she was there, and she was that character. So I never sort of did a proper how they met story, but yeah, so they're there, and then so when I had kids, so it was always semi-autobiographical. People's always semi-autobiographical. So when I had kids, my producer, my son, he was born 22 and a half years ago. But I thought, well, rather than just have one kid, I'll have two, just because I don't want it to be exact mirror of my life, and then I've got plausible deniability. As well.
Okay.
But I figured, so it was part of the thing that, the babies were born, and that was a very active part of the strip. And she was sort of going into battle with the babies on her back. Well, they had to sort of go down and live in the sewers and all this sort of stuff. That's the story that I'm currently rerunning on Instagram. So yes, you go to @Pupil and you can follow along with that story.
Now, actually, now that you brought it up a little bit, the name Pupil, what does that refer to?
Well, okay, so Pupil it was actually a name my friend made up, my friend Guy. We were playing D&D, as you did back there.
By the way, I'm a big D&D fan myself, but go ahead.
Yes. So playing too much D&D.
Yeah.
And actually the very first strip I did, it sort of starts... Well, I sort of started... I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to keep it in. So there's a panel with Ferdinand the Frog kind of introducing it, because he was sort of my autobiographical character. So it sort of segues from the Ferdinand comics, I suppose, into Pupil, and then I have them like real. So it was like us playing D&D with Ferdinand as the dungeon master. But then I realized that makes sort of Ferdinand the god of the whole Pupil world. So I thought, actually, I really need to keep all this in there. maybe one day I'll do one where Pupil confronts his maker and it's Ferdinand. It'd be very annoying. And I also figured out how Astro Kitty also kind of fits in that world, because then after I did Tina, I did a sort of domestic one, but then I did like a sort of more wild adventure where this sort of like kind of space police lady sort of comes in, and I didn't really know where I was going with it or what I was doing. It was just that it was that same sort of character that I wanted to do, and I sort of put it in, didn't really know how it fit. I've since retcon fitted it, so like, okay, now the Pupil Earth world, because Pupil lived on Earth, it all sort of fits in the same universe now, which I think that's something I read Mobius first, that he'd like somehow retconned everything into the same universe. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's what you have to do. You have to get it all into the Earthyverse.
Yeah. I've made up characters and things like that, and back in the day, I did a comic book. Now, the thing about this comic book is that it was super adult. Okay, it was an adult comic book, but it was a fun book. It was a fun book, and what happened basically is I found a publisher who wanted to do stories, and they wanted them to be adult in nature. And it's like, well, I don't really care one way or another. I just wanted to get my work published. Okay, this is back in the day. It was like, oh, I'm right out of college and I want to do this stuff, So I came up with this character, which is the one that you're drawing. So I was going to ask you about her, yes, because I don't know anything about her really. Okay, well, first of all, her name is Chandra, and she is a sword for hire. Okay, and she dresses sort of like a I wouldn't say a pirate, but more like a freebooter or somebody who she doesn't use armor. She uses her sword and her speed is her armor.
Right. I guess that would be a barbarian in 5th edition D&D.
Yeah. She's not. That's another thing. She's not a barbarian. Everyone, I don't know why people want to call her that. She's not that at all. If you had to like put your finger on it, she's really. I mean, I hate to use the word pirate because she's never on a boat, but she dresses and seems kind of piratey to me.
Okay, but she's a sort of roguey piratey. Yeah, pirates wouldn't wear armor because they're going to fall in the sea.
Exactly. She wants to be able to move freely. That was the thing. And so I came with this character, and I wrote a bunch of stories that went into graphic novels, and I did a whole bunch of stuff back in the 90s and the early 2000s. It worked well for a while, and then around 2002, I think, the adult market kind of fell apart, and which is like, hey, whatever, things come, things go. That's the way it is, So, but then a while back, a guy, or actually I approached them because a friend of mine. You ever heard of a character called Demi the Demoness?
Yes.
Oh yes,
You
yes,
have?
yes,
Okay.
yes. I remember discovering
Okay.
Demi, and he had that up on the internet quite early on, I guess.
Yes, he did. Steve Crompton and I have worked together on several. Yes, we worked together on several projects together over the years. Somebody got in contact with him and said, hey, your Demi the Demoness stuff, would you like to have that, republished, repackaged and everything? And he's like, well, of course, sure. Well, I put my stuff away, and it's been on a shelf for literally the last 15 years, maybe 20 years, and it's just gathering dust. And so I thought, it'd be nice. Maybe he'd be interested in me too. So I kind of poked my nose into that publisher's area, and he took me up on it. He's like, oh yeah, we'd love to do that. So I had to, back in the day, I didn't know Photoshop at all back in the 90s and the thousands. The early thousands. I didn't know it at all. So my lettering is horrible. My lines are not good. My word balloons are really bad. So I went in and I cleaned up the entire 150-page graphic novel, cleaned it all up, got it, retyped it all in, changed some of the dialogue here and there. And then they reprinted it, and it turned out really well. My only issue with it is that the guy that did it, he asked me to do an intro and an outro page. And when he printed it, he forgot the outro page. So it's like, oh well.
No.
But it was fun to do, and I enjoyed it. I really don't do that stuff anymore because there's really not a market for it in general. But I do a lot of freelance for individuals now. People come to me to have me draw their character, or to have me draw like a situation for a game they're in the middle of, and they want someone to draw it, that kind of thing. So I don't draw anything these days, or not, I draw very few things these days for professional stuff, but I do it from time to time when the opportunity arises.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get into the inking phase now. I haven't done any for a bit. I've been for the last couple of weeks. I've been sort of Kickstarter, getting it all together. I'll sort of go in. I definitely tend to work in spurts. I'm not someone like, I draw every day. I'll do I'll go sort of days where I'm like drawing all day every day for a bit, and then I won't do anything for a bit. And,
sometimes
I'll sort of go between one
task
and the other. I'm quite happy like that. Yeah.
Some days I get arted out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've had enough.
Like today, then I'll be a computer head for a bit or whatever, or web designer head, or they had this character, the third Doctor Who, John Pertwee would play this character Wurzel Gummidge, who was it was very different. He was a sort of crazy scarecrow, but he would put on these different heads.
Okay.
So I sometimes feel a bit like Wurzel Gummidge.
I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so I love talking
to him.
him.
Yes. All right, good. Have you been watching the new ones?
The problem with them is I can never remember where they are. I used to watch them on BBC America, and now are they even on BBC America anymore? Or are they?
No, they're. I'm assuming they'll come on the BBC at some point, but they're right now the Disney doing them. Like Disney's BBC made a deal with the devil on Disney. I mean, the trouble is even BBC is losing audience now.
Sure.
Because everyone in the UK is watching streaming, obviously. So, like the golden days are gone, I think, of some of that stuff. But actually, I have to say, the first season was a bit shaky, but the current season, I'm quite enjoying it a lot. They're only sort of 4 episodes in, but they've been really good. So I'd say it's a good season. And it's good. It's good Doctor Who. There's no doubt about it. And that's nice that they're doing that quite a good job.
The new Doctor Who, I like him a lot. I've seen him all over the place. He does lots of different things. He was in a show called Sex Education. That he was. I love his character in that. It was a really good show. And his character, I really liked his character in there a lot. So when I heard that he was going to be doing Doctor Who, I was very excited about it. And now, like I said, I can never seem to find the thing. I don't watch Disney Plus very often, I got to admit, but I'll have to start looking for it.
Yeah. Well, you got to pay for it. I don't know. I subscribe. Well, I also wanted to watch the Andor show. That was quite good. I don't know. I guess I'm also a Star Wars head from back in the day.
Yeah, me too. I watched the first season of Andor, and I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was
yes. I just watched the second one.
The
second one didn't blow me away, but all right.
I mean,
they're doing a pretty good job.
I thought the writing was very good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very fun. I quite like the Skeleton Crew show they did.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. Is that
very
good?
kiddie? It was very kiddie, but it was good. Yeah, I don't know. Like George Lucas always says, Star Wars is for 12-year-olds. And I do think it's best if you keep the mentality of a 12-year-old.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was animated, right?
No,
it wasn't.
No, that one's a live action. It's got like Jude Law. It's actually got a good story. It's actually quite good. Yeah.
All right, I'll check it out because.
I mean, yes, it's funny you guys are talking about Star Wars is for kids, and there's something very not for kids happened in one of the newer Andor episodes, and there's a lot of people talking about it. I would say what?
Oh yeah,
you can find out for yourself.
Tell us.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a very fun topic. It's not a very fun topic.
In other words, it's not a very Star Wars.
Are you talking about the massacre?
No, not that. I mean, that we've seen that in Star Wars already. It's something that they haven't really done in Star Wars yet.
Well, is it worse than
I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at it at that level.
What was that, Dale?
Kissing your sister?
Well,
your sister.
Kissing what?
It's worse than kissing your sister.
Kissing your sister. That's what happened. That's what they started the series off.
It is worse than kissing your sister who you didn't even know was your sister. It is a lot worse than that.
Well, that's bad.
Wait, what happened? Sorry, I missed this. I watched it, but I wasn't paying attention.
They have season 2 now.
Oh, this is in season 2. I just watched season 2.
What I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just watched season 2.
You just watched all of it? Okay, well.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what you're talking about. Sorry.
I mean, they didn't show it. It was just something they talked about.
I'm sorry. I can't think what it is. It went over my head at the time, I guess.
Well, I'll bring it up to you later, and then you'll probably remember.
You don't want to talk about it on the air. You're going to get cancelled.
No, first of all, it's not a very fun subject to talk about on the air. And second of all, I think I don't know. I haven't seen the show yet, or the second season yet, so I don't even really want to know too much about it. I just know that
I'll probably watch it again because I was sort of I was a bit distracted. I don't know. Sometimes I like to only half watch them again because ever since I heard this thing about spoilers, they said they did some scientific research on spoilers, and they said they proved it that people like stories better when they know how they end, even when they say that they don't.
Really?
Yes, that was the scientific
research. I mean, I don't want to spend money going to a movie that I already know what's going to happen. I mean,
well, I don't know. That's the conventional wisdom. I mean, that's what most people say, but apparently it's not true.
Okay,
you'll like it better if you know how it ends.
If I already know.
Okay, it's ridiculous.
Well, because what it's doing, what that study is doing is, first of all, it's probably using something where it's like they do a test where they tell someone the ending or some spoiler to something, and then they have them watch that thing, and then they say, how much did you enjoy it? And then with a different group of people, they show them the exact same thing without spoiling it.
Yeah.
And then I guess they come to the conclusion that the people who had it spoiled liked it better. and I think what that is using is like a really good like trick way to have humans enjoy things is you give them something they're kind of familiar with, but also like a sort of a new spin or something new on something that they're already familiar with.
Yeah, it's like I had never
And
thought of
if
it
you
that
like
way before.
already,
It's something
you know
already
one
know,
thing,
but you never thought of it that way before.
yeah, and like when you get a spoiler, it's like you know this one thing is going to happen, but you're unfamiliar with the rest of the entire movie or whatever it was spoiled for you. So you kind of have that like, okay, I'm a little bit familiar with it, but I'm unfamiliar with the rest of it. So it kind of does make sense, but I don't know. I still feel like there's a different kind of enjoyment of like, especially for like TV shows. I feel like there's something pretty special about like finding something out, and like I feel like in TV shows they also do like the big reveal trope a lot.
Yeah,
and if that was ruined for me, that would
Did
definitely
you
suck
guys
a little bit.
watch the newest White Lotus series?
Oh, I've not
not
seen
the
that,
newest
but
one.
I've heard really good things about it.
It's
Yeah, saw the others.
the general idea is that people from all over the world or wherever just kind of get together, go to a certain fancy hotel, and then of course dramatic things happen. But this last season had 2 or 3 big spoiler things that happened, and people were all over the internet talking about it. Luckily, I'd already seen it, but people were not shy about discussing it. It's like, oh man, I'm glad I already watched it.
Yeah, it's a real issue because like we're living in a world where everybody's kind of online all the time. But if there's something that you want to not know, like
It's
a
hard.
spoiler, then there's a high chance you'll probably see it
Yeah.
online. And it's like, okay, like I used to literally have to make the choice, like, okay, there's a movie that I don't want spoiled or a show I don't want spoiled. So I have to literally like not use the internet.
Yeah.
It's kind of the only way to avoid it.
My wife and I will be discussing something, and she'll say, well, we got to go and see this thing right now, because if we don't, it's going to be all over the internet on Monday. So we have to see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I'll talk about it because freaking like, okay, that new
Right.
Thunderbolts movie, I was like, okay, it sounds like people are saying this one's good. I might go see that. And then the Monday after, it was released on Friday, the Monday after its release, Marvel just comes out and says, oh, they're the new Avengers, guys. They're the new Avengers. It's like, what? I wanted to find that out in the movie.
Right.
Why are they doing this
Right.
on Monday?
As a matter of fact, they were very, because I'm a big fan of like superhero movies and things like that, and they were being very coy because the title, the Thunderbolts, and there's a little
Asterisk,
to it,
yeah.
and they're like very coy about what does that mean? What does that mean? And then 2 seconds later, they explain it. It's like, well, why would you do that? Let people find out.
And it just also, they've literally in the past like had a rule. It's like, okay, we have a 2-week like spoiler rule. Like I remember when Endgame came out, or when Infinity War came out, there was like this whole big thing they did where it's like, don't tell anybody what happens until 2 weeks after the movie comes out because we don't want it to spoil. And it's like, can we have that back?
Yeah,
like, where did that go?
I think these days things happen, and the audience is just going to do what they're going to do, and there's nothing you can do to stop them, and they know that, so they're just like trying to get ahead of the game. I guess, I don't know.
Maybe they're trying to set a precedent. Like, okay, you have 2 days to watch the movie, or else we're going to spoil it for you.
Spoil the heck out of this thing. Oh well. I mean, I saw it and I enjoyed it.
I'll still go see it. Probably, I'll still go see it. But I definitely.
I went.
And also, I saw something where it's like, oh, Sam Wilson's Captain America has assembled the Avengers off screen. And I was like, didn't he just have a movie? Why couldn't that have been what the movie was about?
I saw it already, and it is really enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of humor in it. Although they do make mention, even in the commercials, they say, I'm not going to say it now, but they do make mention of the fact that they themselves compare themselves to the Avengers.
Yes.
Commercials.
I've seen that in the trailers.
So, they do a lot of that. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it was worth seeing. I think you'll enjoy it.
I mean, yeah, it's not like the craziest, like, oh my god, I can't believe that's, it's not like the craziest reveal, but I don't know. I still would have probably enjoyed to see that in the theaters more. But yeah, I could definitely see that coming. I mean, half of the trailer is them being like, oh, this threat we're facing, even the Avengers would have some trouble with that. And it's like, I wonder if they're setting up the fact that if they can overcome this threat, maybe they can be the Avenger.
But like I said, you'll enjoy it.
Well, thanks. You totally spoiled it for me now. I was like, what's going on? Okay. I don't mind. I'll enjoy it all the more now.
I mean, that's all. Well, yes, if you're going to live by what you speak, then yes, you should enjoy it more now.
No, I like these things. When I hear something like that, I'm like, oh, that's the opposite of what everybody thinks. I love it. It just makes me happy.
There we go. Let's see here.
Well, yeah, all those Marvel movies, they're pretty good. The Avengers, I got to say, I was so impressed. Wow, they actually made an Avengers movie and got that, and it was, that's pretty incredible, really. Well, after all these years of crummy movies, superhero movies.
The thing that used to kill me is back in the day, when Marvel used to sell their characters to practically anybody who wanted to use them. They had weird Spider-Man and Captain America and Hulk TV shows on in the 70s a lot.
They were awesome.
Oh yeah, we got most of those. We got the Spider-Man and the Hulk. We didn't get Captain America.
Captain America was a movie. It was a movie. It was Captain America movie. But it was not. It was not good.
We didn't get that.
They had Captain America riding around on a motorcycle, and his shield was like the visor of the motorcycle. So I was like, okay, what's that all about?
I've seen clips of it. Yeah,
yeah, it was quite a weird way to do it, but in general, Marvel has really sold their stuff a lot around. That's why Sony and Fox had all those characters that they want to buy back now.
Yes, they made that. Yeah, that's why Sony keeps making all these crummy movies to keep the Spider-Man. I guess every time they make like Kraven the Hunter, that renews that fulfills their obligation.
Yep. No, it literally does. That's why they do it.
They want to keep the character because they still think that they got the best Spider-Man, and they don't. But it is what it is.
I mean, the one that I've heard of recently that I was just like, that's ridiculous, is that they're not going to let Marvel use, like, Kingpin from the Daredevil stuff in any of the MCU movies. Why? And it's just like, what the hell are you going to do with Kingpin? What are you going to do with Kingpin?
They spun off a Penguin movie.
No, they did a Penguin TV show.
They were spinning it off.
Yeah, but that...
That's DC though. That's a different.
Wilson. Okay, but the thing is that the Penguin in that HBO series was like a very interesting and cool Penguin that we've never really seen before. I don't really think they're gonna do anything better than the Wilson Fisk that we're getting in the Daredevil show.
No.
Like that basically is comic accurate Wilson Fisk, and like the stuff they've done, like they even amped it up in the new MCU shows. Like he's ripping car doors, like doors off of cars, and like surviving these crazy fucking attacks. Which I don't know. I saw some people complaining about that. But I'm like, come on, it's Kingpin. Like
you can't kill off your villains if they're popular. So you can. He was literally shot in the head, and he survived it. So it's like, okay, I don't know how he did.
That was a little silly. I mean, but I'm not gonna lie. That whole entire show where that plotline happened was a little silly.
I mean, the show itself was fine, but yeah, when that happened and he lived, it was like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. No, have you seen the new Daredevil show, Phil? Yeah, I liked it too, but I thought it was really funny when they addressed that. They were like, Matt and Kingpin were having a conversation in a little diner, and he just like casually mentioned that he got shot in the head and he's got a cybernetic implant, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's gonna be the only ramification getting shot is gonna in the head we'll have in this series. It's like you'd think that would actually have some sort of effect.
You'll get an upgrade.
No, but that's the thing. It didn't even come up at all that he has a cybernetic implant.
Okay.
Like, I just... It's like, if you're going to shoot your character in the head and give him a cybernetic implant, at least use it as, like, a narrative element. That is the one thing that frustrates me so much with, like, fantasy and, like, superhero writing. It's like, you literally are given all of these elements that, like, okay, this is something that can't happen in real life, and that allows you to, like, tell stories that are unique and can't happen in real life. But no, you're just going to use those things to make up for bad writing.
Right. Wait, quick. How do I spell Chandra? Shondra.
It's Shaundra. Yeah, you probably had it right.
Oh, okay. Shau.
Yeah. Ndra.
Undra.
Yes.
As in Shaun. Were you before Shaun of the Dead or after Shaun of the Dead?
The actual Chandra has been around since the mid 90s.
Okay.
So yes, well before Shaun of the Dead.
Well done, Chandra. Well, I'd like to see some. Where can I see Chandra comics?
Okay, first of all, Chandra comics don't exist anymore because they were printed back in the mid 90s and the early 2000s, and there are none available anywhere, unfortunately, except there is one place where I think you might still be able to get them at a place called Discordia.com, and I think they're spelled DISCORDIA.com. I think that's the guy that did my book recently. He reprinted my stuff.
Okay, that's the reprint. Okay,
yeah, that's the reprint. You can't find any of the originals anywhere. I've looked.
No. So some lucky collectors have them.
I guess the bad part about it is well, at least the first book. The very first book that was printed was printed on horrible. They really screwed up the process of making the book. The print was fine, but the glue they used did not hold, and literally the pages would come out in your hands.
Oh yeah, okay.
That was
that can be a problem.
Yeah, that was a problem. And people would come up to me at the conventions and they go, "Man, I took this thing home last week and I was reading it. And the pages just came out." It's like, well, I didn't actually make the book. Yeah. They printed it. Interestingly enough, a place called Rip-Off Press.
Hard to make things. Yeah. Yeah. Who printed it?
They don't exist anymore, but it was a company called Rip-Off Press.
Yeah, Rip-Off Press. The Freak Brothers.
Yeah. The Furry Freak Brothers.
I mean, they were a proper outfit. Yeah. The Freak Brothers, more than anything, really got me wanting to make comics. I don't know why. I read comics. I like comics. I sort of made comics, but when I read that, I was like, "Oh, there's some really interesting things you can do," and they were really funny.
Yeah, the Furry Freak Brothers were their big claim to fame. As a matter of fact, the Furry Freak Brothers still exist in one form or another. I've seen some recent books, so they do still exist, but Rip-Off Press no longer does.
Yeah. They had an animated series of the Freak Brothers, which I haven't seen. I think they may have even had 2 seasons of it.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Which that was something he was trying to do for years, and yeah. And I heard they were okay. I haven't seen any, but I heard that they were good.
Well, I'm sure they're very much like the comics.
The background,
although now that pot's been legalized, it doesn't have quite the punch it used to.
Yeah.
The background doesn't match the character design, so it's jarring.
Oh, you mean the animation?
In what?
So if you look at the Freak Brothers, the comics, you can see, hey, this is the Freak Brothers. You see Gilbert Sheldon's designs, but if you look at the backgrounds and how they're done, the backgrounds don't match the character design, and it's jarring if you're a Freak Brothers fan.
Well, quite often, not quite often, but it has been done in the past where an artist will do all the figures, and then another artist will come in and do the backgrounds.
Yeah. Well, the backgrounds look cheap.
Not the same style, and not the same feel. That was the thing about the Freak Brothers I liked, was the funky feel of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a cool style. I think the premise of the animation is that they sort of got cryogenically frozen and woke up in modern times.
Sure. Austin Powers.
Yes. Which I thought that's not a bad way to do it. I don't know. I mean, either you got to do it like as a period piece, but he's done funny things. I don't know. They're all great. He had so many great ideas. It's such a good way of looking at the world. I think he really. I don't know. He's definitely like him. Mike Judge is another hero.
Oh yeah, love Mike Judge.
Yes.
He did the Office Space, but he also did, of course, King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead and all that stuff. And if you look at those stories, if you look at them, you can see connecting points, which I always thought was interesting with his work.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, all his work is very interesting. All his movies have been good. I always recommend this one called Extract that not so many people saw because it was more of a sort of smaller movie and not really obviously a Mike Judge movie.
Uh-huh.
But that's a really good little one where he sort of talks about business. Like that's a sort of more of like a how to live one.
Uh-huh.
Rather than like normally he's sort of ripping it out of people who are doing everything wrong.
Right.
That one he's got a sort of like, this is more like here's somebody trying to live a good life sort of thing.
What was that movie he did with where the guy was cryogenically frozen and woke up in the future? Idiocracy.
Oh, Idiocracy.
Yeah. That was a great movie.
That was his most prophetic one there.
Talk about seeing things from the future and actually having them come true.
I know. I'm just waiting for the headline of, we're going to use electrolytes to start
growing crops,
farming our plants. That's when it's officially done.
That was so funny. He's the smartest man in the world. It does make the whole movie relentlessly dumb.
Yeah.
Everybody. And I like the show, the TV show, the popular TV show is called Ow My Balls. That's just like he's like when he first breaks into the guy's apartment or whatever, he's sort of sitting on his like lazy boy that has a built-in toilet watching Ow My Balls.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there more like the ideas are really more sort of funny,
Yeah. He's good at pointing out the foibles.
Every new show that comes out is closer to Ow My Balls. The other day I was watching a police procedural. It was a normal Netflix police procedural cop show. The beginning of it, they're turning up in these like gigantic supercharged Humvees and sort of shining all these lasers around and all these armored cops getting out. I was like, oh yeah, this is about right. We're about halfway to Judge Dredd world again.
Yeah.
Between Judge Dredd's always 120 years ahead. Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah.
It's all going according to plan.
It won't be long.
Or maybe things will get better. I know I'm sort of eternally optimistic. I do tend to think that things get better rather than worse.
I am too. I normally think of myself as an optimist. Yes.
But there can be blunt bips on the way. That's the problem.
Well, yeah.
And we're being really stupid right now.
Yeah.
But all right, but then we just got the internet. Like, the internet is just like a most amazing tool. That's like, we only just got it still.
Yeah, the internet's still brand new.
Yeah, in the grand
And,
scheme
you know,
of history, still not very old.
I love it when there's an old movie and they have a computer bit in it, and you're like, oh, like were they right or wrong about computers? Like they never like right. Computer we're saying what computers will be. You know, when they get it right, they're right.
There was. Do you remember the movie Independence Day? Okay.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a scene in there
Oh,
that's,
yes.
especially these days, if you watch it, that's hilarious. And what it is Jeff Goldblum's character, the scientist, has designed a computer like worm to go inside their, to screw up the aliens' computers.
A virus.
He's using
a virus.
Yeah, a virus. He's using a virus. And it's
Yes.
like, well, wait a
It was
minute.
sort of
wait a minute.
reverse of War of the Worlds. All right, I like that premise, but
the idea is that this is going to work on a computer system that we don't even understand, and so this is still going to work.
Yeah,
but it was just the idea that that's how they thought of writing the resolution, and it's like, ooh, that was really bad writing.
Definitely. That was one where I get it. You were doing the reverse of War of the Worlds. Like, we're going to put the virus into you. Okay, I get that, but it's not as good as War of the Worlds. Like, War of the Worlds is true. This isn't true.
Well, yeah. The thing about War of the Worlds that always got me, and this is kind of, what was that movie with Mel Gibson in it where the aliens come down?
Signs.
Oh,
Signs.
When they're in the crop circles, the second Shalavan one.
Yeah, Signs.
Signs.
And the thing that always killed me about that movie is like, you have naked aliens running around on a planet that they're not really all that familiar with, and they're running around where there's pools of acid, literally pools of acid all over the place, and they're breathing in acid because there's moisture in the air. So it's like, wait a minute, are you kidding me? How is that a resolution?
Yeah, I didn't care for Signs at all. I don't know. I like some of his other ones that everyone hates. I like the one with the trees, The Happening.
Oh yeah, The Happening. Where the trees make everybody go crazy.
Okay,
that was like something you see late at night on BBC Two, and it would freak you out.
Allow me to explain the movie Signs to you.
Okay.
Did you pay to see it?
Yes.
Okay, that was the whole point.
All right.
It was very popular with that other one, the icy dead people. So they knew that people would go and pay for the other one.
The script is just simply some elements out of 40 and Times. It's just stuff out of Time Life books. It's all just pieced together.
Yeah, somebody's into that.
Story. I mean, it was targeted to Gen Xers who grew up watching In Search of.
Right. Well, the reason I went to see it at all is because some of his other movies were very good. So of course you expected this to be as good, and it turned out not to be.
It was good because you paid money to see it.
well, the marketing was good. How about that?
Okay,
it was good enough.
It's like a bunch of crap, and then a twist at the end. So you got yourself a bunch of crap and a twist.
That's what you paid him for.
Yeah.
Come up with a twist.
Yeah, that's what you paid the big bucks. Bunch of crap with a twist.
The problem is everyone compares him to that first movie. And that first movie was a home run.
Yeah, but that essentially it was a bunch of crap with a twist, though. Twilight Zone. It was a good Twilight Zone.
That really should be that should be the motto of this show. This should be our tagline. We're a bunch of crap with a twist.
What's the twist? I don't think we have a twist. The twist is there is no twist.
Twist is I'm not wearing pants this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Dave. I just would like viewers to know I always wear pants on this show. Can't say the same about
Well, that's because we see you going back and forth to your studio to get art supplies every episode. Yeah. Why haven't you gone and gotten art supplies? Are you actually prepared?
I'm a bit prepared.
He's been prepared.
Phil Phil got this whole thing going
Yeah.
by sort of suggesting that we trade artwork. I thought that sounds like a nice idea, and then he sent me his character. I thought, that's cool. I want to draw that. And he drew Tina, and I said I thought we were going to do. Well, he did his ahead of time. I'm doing mine on the show. I was going to do a bit of prep ahead of time, but I didn't really get round to it. But I thought, this is a good theme for the show. She's coming out good. I don't know. Like, what about the world where she lives in? I've sort of done a vague sort of fantasy world.
It's a sword and sorcery type place.
Yeah.
D&D with an adult twist.
Yeah, that sounds good. I wish I'd found that at the time. Maybe I did, and I don't know. Yeah, I do some naughty things. I don't know. I don't really go into adult comic a lot, but
is there adult D&D? I mean, is there like strict?
Actually,
D&D?
you know what? There was an adult D&D back in the 90s. Again, there was a guy. God, I can't remember his. He drew a comic called Ironwood.
Oh, I remember that.
And Ironwood, the guy that drew Ironwood, actually created a whole system, a whole gaming system around the comic book, and it was called Theatrics. That's right, it was called Theatrics, and it had a lot of adult content in it because the comic book itself did too.
Mm.
Yeah, I think there's been sort of different attempts. I know even D&D officially did. They had the Book of Vile Darkness. That was sort of as far as they went down, like doing kind of twisted things, I think. But yeah, D&D.
yes, and they have Grazit too.
Scared of demons again. We don't know. I have a feeling they're going to go back to being scared of demons again in a minute.
Demons are great for when you can't explain it.
Yes. As Neil deGrasse Tyson says, the God of the gaps is and makes God an ever shrinking pocket of scientific ignorance.
Yeah, exactly.
So Phil, how long ago did you start doing pen and ink?
I've been doing pen and ink since I was a kid. I come from an artistic family.
Okay.
And when I was growing up and, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, my brothers, who were substantially older than me, were buying Marvel comics and stuff. And they would sit around and they'd draw. And I would, of course, wanted to copy them because I'm 6 years old and I, want to be cool with my brothers. So I sat down and started drawing things. And then one day my brother started drawing with a Crowquill ink pen. Crowquill nib, Crowquill, and I don't know if you ever used one of those. They're a pain in the neck. I would never recommend using them now because they're very, very, very hard to get a hang of how to use them, and you break them all the time. So, I then went from Crowquill to brush because brush was much more forgiving.
Yep.
And you can control the line with brush, but brush is also messy. So, and I'm a messy, I can tell by a little bit of the studio, you can see around me, I'm a messy guy. So I don't think,
me too.
what I end up using now is I'm using microns. See, micron, there you go. Microns, I love microns because you can control everything about them.
When did you shift to them?
Probably back in the mid 2000s, like around 2004, 2005, because I used a lot of brush in a lot of my stuff. And the only issue that I have with microns is that you don't have the ability to get the skinny and fat line with the same brush. So I do a lot of filling. I go in and fill it in. But that also gives you a certain look too, which I've come to enjoy. So
well, I looked at your stuff online. Chuck has me do research, and I found you were in some Facebook groups, and you had samples of your work. You do a lot of hatching.
Oh yeah, a lot of cross hatching. Look at this. Look at the character I'm working on right now. If you can see,
Yeah,
a lot of.
Oh yeah, there he is, a lovely lich.
That's kind of my standard style. If I'm going to be doing color work, which I am asked to do from time to time, I really back off of the line work because I want the color to talk. I want the color to do what it's there to do. But I am very comfortable with black and white because I can get a lot of really neat textures with it and a lot of nice shadow work that it's hard to get otherwise. And a lot of the things that people have me do are like creatures, monsters, evil wizards, that kind of thing. And a lot of those look good because they give you that kind of 1940s, monster movie look with all the deep shadows.
Yep. Now, is there an artist in pen and ink? I mean, you talked about artists that influenced you as an artist, but are there artists whose technique that you look at and try to take things from?
Okay, so there's a guy by the name of Bernie Wrightson.
Yep, we all know who he is.
Bernie Wrightson is the master of pen and ink.
Yeah.
He's passed away, unfortunately, but his work, look at his Frankenstein book.
Yep.
That is insane with the kind of work he did.
It's too insane for me. I look at that and I'm like, no, I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah, exactly. So when I look at my work and it's kind of cartoony, but it has kind of a, there's some textures and stuff going on there. And then you look at his work and you go, why am I even bothering?
Yeah.
Why do I even bother?
Yeah. No, that definitely sent me in a different direction, really.
Yeah. His work is crazy. And his paintings are really good too, if you get a chance to check them out. But Bernie Wrightson is a master, an absolute master.
Okay. Yes. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. You do have lovely cross hatching. I really like that one that I put on the cover for the show with the sort of monster kind of coming through, the way that you did the lighting on that and the town behind and the characters in the foreground. That's really great. Yeah, I love it.
Actually, that was for a Steve Crompton book.
Oh, really? Okay.
That I did. As a matter of fact, his Demi the Demoness character. That is her riding the back of the monster.
Oh, that was Debbie on there. Yes, I saw her up there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, okay, funny. Yeah, I should have thought about that. Yeah. I met him too once at a show. Years ago at I think at WonderCon in San Francisco.
Yeah. He's big on the West Coast. Yeah, that's where he does his work. What happened with that illustration in particular is that I drew all the stuff in there, but some of it was drawn separately and then laid in later. Demi was drawn separately, and then he wanted me to put her on the guy's back, so I did. And then there's that little creature, that kind of Horn of Plenty creature down there with the big mouth with all the teeth in it. I drew that separately.
Oh, yeah,
and he had me put that in there as well. It's like, okay, sure, no problem. So I really enjoyed that one too for the exact reasons that you brought up. I like the lighting; it did turn out well.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll study that one more next time. I sometimes do these things for Goodman Games. I tend to do more maps, but sometimes they'll send me a sort of black and white spot illustration or something. And I know I always find those. That's not. I enjoy the challenge of them, but I see how well some people handle it, and I'm like, there's a lot to learn just in that sort of focus on just black and white.
Yeah.
And the neatness of the hatching, that's difficult for me.
Well, that's where the pen comes in. That's where the pen comes in. For me, these microns make cross hatching super simple. If you look on your,
sort of wary to commit to it, yeah, because it's sort of like you really got to commit to how I'm doing it.
If you look at the Tina illustration I did for you, her helmet has a tiny bit of crosshatch in there, and I did that just for fun.
Yes, and I can see it on the Sean illustration. Well, not exactly cross hatch, but a little bit of hatching that you've done in the spot.
Right, I did that in there, but because I did that in color, because I wanted you to see the color, how she looked in color, I really backed off on the cross hatching there a lot.
Yeah. All right, she's looking good. I'm having fun on this.
That's the whole idea. Have fun.
Yes. Yes. So, you don't have any particular project then that you're working on at the moment? You're just doing all the stuff for people.
There's probably going to be another Chandra book eventually because I have pages and pages and pages that'll work. So I'm going to be cleaning that up and using that. But there's not really a lot of new artwork that goes in there. That's usually just reprints.
Okay.
Let's see here. What am I working on now? I'm working on a lot. Well, things like this. I'm not working on anything that is going to be printed anytime soon. Although I did just get some work done recently for a UK publication. What was that called? Oh, I can't remember it now. But he got a hold of me last fall and had me do 5 or 6 illustrations for him. And I haven't heard back if he wants me to do any more. But that was the last time I had something that was printed in an actual publication. Although, actually, I'm going to do something for you right now. Here's an illustration. Here's an illustration that I did. Can you see this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're upside down.
Oh, sorry.
Rotate it. There we go. Yeah. There we go.
How's that?
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
That's an illustration. This is a cover for a guy, but he's doing it as a, what is it called? When you're doing something that you think you can get published. But he doesn't
like on spec or whatever.
Yeah, on spec. That's right. He's having me draw the illustrations for every one of those for the entire. It's like a D&D module. Do you know what a module is?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's going to be for a D&D module, but I don't think he has an actual idea of the publisher that he wants to go to. He wants to get the whole project done first, and then he's going to ship it off to people to see if he can get interest.
I'm not too sure how that works. I don't know if that's a good way to do it or not. Or if not, then publish it yourself. I don't know. I mean, by the time you've done all that, you might as well publish it yourself.
I agree. But, when people come to you with these ideas in their heads, it's their idea. So if they want to do it that way, sure. Fine,
Oh yeah, I'm not going to say no to the client. I know. Yeah. I had a guy. I did a lot of work for him. He had this idea. He wanted to sell plastic poop in a can that you sort of send to somebody.
All right.
And it was like sort of dog poo or whatever. And he wanted a character. He saw this character I'd done, like a dog character that I'd done for like a children's book thing.
Right.
And I said, well, you can't use that, but I can do you something sort of similar. I can do something better. And he's like, no, I want exactly that. I'm like, are you sure you want that? And he's like, that's what I want. Okay. And I sort of did this. And, he had me do lots of versions of this thing. And it went on for a while. And then he finally launched this Kickstarter for this thing and got no backers.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Some people get this idea in their head that this is the way it's going to be. This is going to be great. And I don't discourage people because I don't want to be like, Debbie Downer kind of guy. But you look at something and you can kind of tell right away if it's going to work.
I didn't have a clue. I thought it was fine. I guess I assumed you'd done this market research and you had some idea that people wanted this product.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I asked him questions. At one point, he told me he spent quite a lot of money on it, and I was like,
Yeah.
But all right, he's a good guy. He's doing his best.
I knew a guy that was working for a publisher who had this idea about this. It was a sci-fi story about with animals that could talk. I don't know. I don't remember. The idea is that he had this artist do all this work. And I mean and I'm talking like 20 comic books of it. And as far as I know, he never sold it to anybody. He never sold it to anyone.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's good.
But did he pay him?
Yeah, he did pay the guy. The guy did pay work. He did. But it's just the fact that it's like, well, okay.
What?
But when this friend of mine showed me the work, I mean, the work was fine. His work was fine, but the idea was just so wonky that it's like, well, okay, fine, whatever. If that's what you want to do. So that's how you want to spend your money.
Yeah, I mean,
that is weird.
Do that. They work in a job. They have a day job, and they want to write, and they'll pay someone to draw it, and so often you can find like somebody who, like in another country, who will do it on a reasonable rate, and okay, if you're just doing a page a week or whatever, it's not that much out of your budget, and you can get it done. But it's a weird, I think you can't go. You should, like, it might be worth it to do like a sort of spread. So here's my writing with illustrated, but or doing a whole. I don't know. You do a book. Well, then you make your book and you sell your book. I don't know. I mean, that's possible too. So,
according to this guy, this publisher or whoever he was spent quite a bit of money on this thing, like a lot. And the last time I talked to him, which it's been a while since I talked to this guy, but the last time I talked to him, he was still working on this stuff, and that was like he'd been working on these projects for years. So I'm thinking, are you selling these? Is anybody buying any of this stuff? I mean, what's going on? But I never really got an answer out of him.
I mean, certainly with my comics, nobody's buying them. I mean, I spend my own time on it. That's different, I suppose.
Well, and that's good too. I mean, if you're working on your own work and you want to give it a shot, sure, go the Kickstarter route or whatever. Do any of you guys work on Patreon?
No.
I have a Patreon. There was one point where I tried it fairly hard and it was sort of going okay, but it was sort of difficult, and I don't know. And I have one for Pewful where there's still a couple of people who are on there, but I'm not very good at servicing them. So I'm not. It's really difficult to do things like that. You've got to sort of really commit to it.
I've seen some people who go great guns for a long time, but then you burn out eventually. There's only so much content.
Yeah. Right. You're sort of. Yeah, exactly. You get burned out doing it every day. I don't know. Yeah, you can, but you could sort of fund doing it. I mean, I don't know. I've got Pewful. Like, people can sponsor me per page. If people want more Pewful, you can sign up. But no, people don't. I don't know. Some people do. And that's about it.
Well, it's a
smart people.
Yeah.
Smart people know how to spend their money wisely.
Well, yeah.
Artists to make comics.
Like I said, with the stuff I'm doing, I understand where it's coming from. I understand what they want. There's a lot of ego out there, and a lot of people want to kind of they want to see their creation made, and that's fine. That's great. It's not everybody can do it or afford to do it, and that's why I not to loop around to AI just briefly. I understand why people do it. I do.
Yeah. I think it's just going to make, skills of people who can actually draw even more valued. That's really my belief.
I seem like to think that's true. Yes.
No, it'll destroy humanity and destroy art. I believe in this. I believe this.
But I don't plan on that scenario.
You see, there's a certain.
I don't know.
The reason you have art supplies like the microns you're using and the brushes you're using and the watercolors is that there are enough people who are hobby artists that buy this stuff to make it a viable business. Now, the same way we're losing retail by having generations who have grown up with buying stuff online, we will have a generation that rather than learning how to draw and paint and sculpt and whatnot, they'll just use AI tools. That means there will be a point where there's not enough money being spent on art supplies for there to be a viable art supply business. So, people are not going to be making the art supplies. We'll be back to the days of the Renaissance when you're making your own paints and making your own
Yeah.
pencils.
A lot of the times, what'll probably end up happening, especially for people like me, is they'll just pick up ballpoint pens. I've seen some amazing work done in ballpoint pen.
Yeah.
I mean, art will always find a way. I mean, this is just, it's like, okay, if that does happen, then is that just going to make art scarce, and then art will be more appreciated because art is scarce? Like, it's all cyclical.
I think human beings are very artistic, and I don't think you can write that out of the code. I think that's in.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at how AI art. Like, the first thing we tried to do with AI was make art with it. We're obsessed with art.
That's right.
Killing is part of the human code, but we've done an okay job of making killing other people relatively rare. I mean, it still happens, but art is going to become much rarer than it is.
Well, here's the thing, though. It will become rare again, but that there's still be people that will do it.
Well,
yes,
yeah. People are going to do it. You know that you want to create, you want to do it. You get a satisfaction. Like you don't have to be the greatest artist in the world.
You're not going to get satisfaction
out of making a picture.
You see, when you're a young artist and you're looking at other people's work as you're learning, you hate yourself. You hate your work, and it takes a while for you. You have to stick with it until you become okay with your work and you like your work. Competing against AI, which creates more professional looking work right from the start, people are not going to stick with it.
But the thing about AI,
it doesn't though. It doesn't. It's just like a Photoshop filter. You can say, "Oh, those Photoshop filters really made it," but everyone just sees it as a cheap trick very quickly.
All right. Chuck, you're forgetting the first lesson. Am I usually right?
Not about predicting the future.
Okay.
You're more of a past guy. You're often right about things in the past.
Oh. No, Phil,
I don't know. Yeah, I've learned to listen to you over the years.
Phil, do you go to a lot of D&D conventions?
In the past I did, but I actually run a game now, my own game, and I'm old school, like really old school. I first of all, I play 2E, which I don't know if you're familiar with the different levels.
No, I don't play D&D at all.
Yeah, well, I'm very familiar. Yes, 2E not so familiar. I didn't really play 2E ever.
Okay. Now the thing about 2E is that, well, first of all, they're up to 5E at this point. But 2E, the reason I like 2E is because that's what I learned on. I learned on 2E, and because I learned on 2E, and I had all the books and all the stuff, I didn't want to go out and buy every new version that came out is $400 for the books. And so what happened is back in my 20s, I did a weekly D&D campaign with several friends, and it kind of went from somebody running their game and I'd run my game and that kind of thing. And then when I got married, oddly enough, almost at the same time that I got married, like 2 or 3 other guys in the thing got married too. And they started having children and stuff. And so what happened was the D&D thing went away. It just went away. We didn't have time for it. But then when I got closer to retirement age, I thought, man, it'd be nice to start another game again. So I put feelers out and I got a game together again. And because I know 2E and I don't want to spend $400 on new books, that's what I'm running, 2E. For me, it is, I'm most comfortable with it. Now, the problem I have with the stuff I've heard with 5E is that 5E is, everybody that plays it is like a superhero. They have like crazy powers and can do all sorts of nutty things. And I like it better when my characters are a little bit more grounded in reality. I mean, I know it's a fantasy.
Yeah.
I like it better that way, personally.
Yeah.
Well,
do they ever?
He plays in the game that I run, and I agree with you. I like a sort of more gritty first edition flavor. We playing 5th edition. They don't like it when they try and ground them. They get very upset with me.
So, do they ever have D&D games where it's like a bunch of restaurant employees of a tavern that are like trying to get through?
Yes, there are rule sets for running like companies
No,
in a
I mean
D&D
just
game.
people who are like really low-paid schlubs who don't go on.
You can do anything you want. If you want to get together with your dungeon master and be like, all right, I want to play a campaign where we're all running a tavern, then and your DM agrees with that and everybody agrees with that, then you can do that. And there are probably like many rule sets out there.
But yeah, they bought a tavern in Greyhawk, and they were running it quite successfully. And then, of course, one day it was attacked by a dragon that sort of tore open the roof and started coming down the building and eating them all up.
Did they have insurance?
That was fun.
Did they have insurance?
They didn't have any insurance.
No. A bunch of people who have to do the inventory for a store.
I've done that before in real life. That's not fun.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not really any different from real life. You'd just be going through spreadsheets.
That was a cartoon in the original Dungeon Master's Guide, though, wasn't it? They were playing the role-playing game where they were all tax accountants and paychecks and paper checks.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw a funny post where it was like, I've played Dungeons and Dragons for 20 years and not once have I fought a dragon in a dungeon.
Yeah.
Well, in the game I'm running right now, I have alluded to the fact that dragons are like death on wheels or on wings or whatever. They will kill you. You know, there are certain games where the characters get so powerful that nothing can stop them, and I don't like that.
I mean, yeah, we were running a campaign and we're all like level 11, and we fought a black dragon, and it was, you know, it did some damage, but it was not a huge threat.
Yeah, exactly. It was
like in the end, I feel like what really...
It was killed with a throwing star. A throwing star between the eyes is what finished
it was a crit, though, wasn't it? Wasn't it a crit, at the very least? I think it was a crit.
Yeah, Heather, she'd had this throwing star for ages. We were like, are you sure you were going to use a throwing star? No, I'm using my throwing star. I've got a throwing star.
Okay.
She threw it, she rolled a 20, and it was already nearly dead, and she killed it.
Wow.
When I was a kid,
it was a good session. Her character was in the process of getting married. She was getting married to this.
But yeah, we got to tell some stories of the session, because as soon as so they were like literally in the middle of the wedding procession, and then the black dragon comes and it's like does a like straight bombing run with its acid breath, and it was really funny. Like as soon as the dragon showed up, Heather's character like immediately just like ran away from and left her husband for dead. So
it was quite a low level. He's like a low level known prince, and she was a sort of fairly high level fighter.
Yeah. So
she ran off. I said, "What are you doing with him?" She just abandoned him at the altar.
Did he die?
He didn't die. He got a really good roll to run away and like hide behind something.
He rolled really well.
Yeah,
he rolled really well to hide behind the altar. He jumped behind the altar.
Okay.
So he didn't die, but he wasn't very happy with the abandonment, and the wedding was off.
Yeah.
He broke off the engagement, and that was the end of the. That was the end of the wedding.
Is he like the first time a dragon attacks and you run away from me? The first time. I mean, this can happen all the time.
I mean, and also he was like literally marrying her because like a big reason why he liked her was like, oh, she's this like awesome gnome warrior princess who's gonna like be cool and protect me. The second any threat happens,
for some reason she was going along with it. He'd been asking around saying like, wait, I'm not sure about this. So that didn't help. Oh, D&D. Well, I mean, to me, those are the funny things all that little stuff that happens, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
like when they're going off peacefully, do something.
For me, it's definitely about like being able to tell like the funny little stories, like, oh, this funny thing happened.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, the whole reason D&D evolved was the stories you would tell about the game Risk weren't interesting enough. So they invented a game.
Yeah.
They invented a game where you could
invading Kamchatka.
You could tell.
I'm going into Kamchatka.
Yeah, I rolled double sixes 3 times in a row so I could get into Australia and hold it for the entire game.
Everybody wants to get to Australia. Yeah, because one time you play it, somebody gets hold of Australia, manages to hold it the whole game and wins, and you're like, that's a good strategy. But now everybody knows it, so nobody lets you hold Australia anymore.
Yeah, it's Australia and South America. But I remember when D&D came out.
South America is harder to hold.
In the 70s, when I was a kid, and everyone started playing D&D, except for the ones who realized, hey, wait a minute, D&D doesn't have any money involved except for spending it on this stuff. So there was the D&D players in junior high school, and then there were the people who learned how to play poker. And trust me, the poker stories are way more interesting. That's why when I was talking to Charles the other day when I was
the poker stories are more interesting because it leads to cracking of friendships and know I mean that can happen with D&D too.
Life was actually ruined.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't their character's life that was ruined. It was their real life.
When you were touring that college, I mean, I asked you if there were poker players, and you said yes. Are there D&D groups?
No.
Yeah,
obviously not, because they're playing poker.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the issue with that's the one thing with these living groups is they kind of just have their thing, and either you are a part of that thing or you're not a part of that thing. So they're definitely, if I end up moving near there, they're going to be all like, oh, we're going to be playing poker. And I'm going to have to be like, I am not going to be playing poker.
If you wanted $1 million idea, because there's all these poker TV shows, there's all these poker celebrities, we have to somehow involve wagering into Dungeons and Dragons. And that we would make so much money. How can we get Dungeons and Dragons into the casino?
I think what always be what I think would be cool, and we talked about this a little bit, would be some kind of PvP Dungeons and Dragons, but that you need to create a whole new module or system for that.
Just put next time you play D&D, each person puts $20 into the pot. And the winner gets the money at the end.
Yeah, but there's no winner. That's the thing. There's no winner. You would have to have you would have to create some kind of PvP system for that to work.
Well, the only way to do it would be as a team. You'd have to do teams, and you do have to do a 2-character team or sort of thing.
Well, yeah. One way how you could do it is you could have
D&D tournaments. So
I mean, there are you have a module, and then a DM runs a session for one group and a session for another group, and then whoever does better out of those two groups would be the winner.
You got
that's so complicated. It takes so long. That's why I think it would be so much more interesting if you could create some balanced and cool way to do a PvP.
For a game that has dice in it.
We should go to a convention and do a tournament one of these days, playing a D&D tournament. That'd be fun.
Oh, I'm never going to play D&D.
You're never going to?
No, I'm a bitter old man.
We can play D&D right now. You're wandering through the woods. You've got your backpack and a sword. And you hear a strange noise in the bushes. What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
I quit the game.
You can't go
killing yourself.
I go get breakfast.
Well, okay, this is the other part about D&D is that you get as much out of it as you put into it. So if you don't want to play D&D, you're not going to have fun playing D&D.
Right.
What if what I like is just every time I talk to you guys about D&D, you're always angry and upset with somebody and you're talking about the game and you're all emotional, and I'm like, I don't need a game to be angry and emotional. I can do
it's that. It's collaborative storytelling. It makes you feel emotions.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
I don't.
All right. So this noise you hear in the woods, like the bush is part.
He killed himself. He said he quit the game. If you quit the game in D&D, you kill yourself.
Really? Like just go off.
And she's wearing like the helmet though, rather than the face. You see a head, like it looks like a sort of grey stone head with like an open mouth and teeth.
Okay.
And she's saying, "I bid you to come with me to the tabernacle."
All right. So what you're saying is somebody tells a story, and you're a character in this story, and you have to respond to this story.
Yeah. You're wearing like an orange. You're wearing a sort of bandolier and an orange.
And
leotard.
if you say that you want to do anything that has a possibility of failing, you have to roll a dice.
You have to roll a dice. Okay.
Or succeeding. People forget this.
Also, too, the
or
DM.
In some games, the dungeon master will roll the dice for you.
The DM sets up a situation that makes you make a decision. You have to make a decision, and then whatever you decide is how the story flows.
All right. So it's just a bunch of people sitting
it's
around.
It's not different from a video game, except you're unlimited.
It's people sitting around talking. In a video game, you're limited occasionally by rolling dice.
Pretty much.
Having fun.
Where do the little figure guys come in?
That's when you have. That's when you're fighting. Usually,
they're optional. They're optional, but if you want to, like, you can get quite into more like board gamey structure around the fighting.
Yeah, it's mainly
in which case the pieces are sort of moving around on the board.
So it's these little figures.
But more like it's more to me. That's like it's a guide. It's a guide. What's going on in the imagination is what's really going on. What's going on the table is a sort of guide, so everybody's got some idea that we're in the same page. But the trouble is that the big fights go when the players go against the dungeon master. The dungeon master has a way of running it. There's all different ways you can run the game.
Okay.
And different sort of flavors and style. And if that's when fights start. If players don't sort of accept the dungeon master.
Okay. So it's a bunch of people sitting around telling a story and rolling dice.
Basically. And having fun.
Is this like a way that people get away from their wives?
Well,
it's the way that people get away from their lives. Change the W to an L.
Okay. Right.
It is definitely
because couples play.
Exactly, couples can play.
That's
can play.
I have a married couple in my group right now.
Do they like drop their keys in a bowl before they start the game?
No.
All right.
None of that happens.
No.
Then they would go to a sex party. So, this is not a sex party.
So
like as in they said in is this some sort of a sex thing? Far from it, Jen.
But I will say it's common. I've seen a lot like people who are in relationships in the same D&D group will often, like, if their character is in a relationship, it won't be with their partner. Okay. Just to try something new. It's like, okay, I don't want to actually date someone else, but I can date someone else in the fantasy game, All
right. Now, you guys have been playing D&D so long as I've known you, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I played it.
And you never invited me to play.
Yeah, because you always say it's dumb and you don't want to play.
Okay. That's kind of rude.
Well, first of all,
we need a new player.
Yeah, you got to want to learn. You got to want to play.
Exactly. I just said it. It sounds like you don't really want to play, and if you don't want to play, you're not going to have fun. So we're not going to invite you if you want to play. The only way you get invited is if you say, "Hey, I want to play D&D." We're not going to force you to play D&D.
Well, can I have fun?
I don't think you can force someone to play D&D.
Can I have fun ruining the game?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. That's where it's different from poker and Risk, because there's fun when you can deliberately screw up the game for others.
Again, that's because those games have objectives and clear goals. D&D is
also the thing about D&D is it lasts for over weeks and weeks and months and months.
Oh,
and
my
if you
God.
ruin the game, everyone's going to hate you because you've just screwed up their last 4 months.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
No, but so
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you want, yeah, you could get personal fun out of messing up somebody's
All
game,
right.
but you'd annoy a lot of
So-
people. I mean, yeah, if you want to go around annoying people, it's not really what the game's about. I think that's what they did in the community episode with Chevy Chase, in that he really wanted to win D&D
Right,
and was very.
right,
I didn't see it, but in a
I
way
just
that
saw it recently. I just saw it recently. It was good.
Charles, so you're saying
Yeah.
that the game has no point and no goal, and it lasts for months.
I mean, it's arbitrary. It's arbitrary. Like it's the DM either creates a homebrew like campaign or setting, or they choose a pre-existing module that already exists, and then they run. All right, I'll give you an example of the two campaigns. I've run one, and I've been in one. In the one that I was in, the entire party started out as people from this remote village, and they have this like coming of age rite where they get sent off down the river and complete some personal goal of theirs. And then in another campaign, and that leads to all these different things. At first you're just going down the river, then you're fighting, natives with multicolored tribal tattoo and crazy swords and all this different stuff. It just goes down this path. Usually the start is very simple, and then it just spirals into all these different things. Temples with liches.
When people
Rain of colorless fire, and then in another campaign it was a little more simple. All the players happened to be going to a festival in the town, and they met each other, and then the next day they won all the festival events, and then the next day the mayor approached them and were like, "Oh, this guy in our town went missing, and you guys are really good at these events that were slightly similar to adventuring, so why don't you go see if you can find the missing logger?" And then they find him. And then another guy is like, "Oh, wow, you did that mission really well. Why don't you come help me on this thing?"
The thing about D&D stories is they're not that interesting, but they're more interesting than bridge stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very interesting for the people who are in the campaign, but for people who weren't in the campaign, it's just like there's so much context you need to explain to understand most of the story. It just kind of spirals into explaining context.
You're in a situation. Sometimes
drinking or taking any other type of intoxicant.
Yeah.
They can be fun.
I
don't know.
have any objections.
As a DM, it's definitely, it can be a little like, I don't know. I would recommend maybe not doing it as a DM, just so you can keep track of things better.
Okay. So it's one person leading a group.
Yep. Our group doesn't really.
Okay. I just wondered.
No, we don't really.
All right, I'm just wondering.
We also do it in the middle of the day on Sunday, so it'd be a bit.
Are there? Do you have to have other?
Well, you know what though.
Do you have to have players?
Sorry, what were you saying, Dale?
Like single player modules.
Oh, usually.
Oh, actually, one cool thing about AI, you can play a pretty cool D&D with AI as a DM.
Okay.
Definitely not as good as real life D&D, but if you're ever bored and nobody you play D&D with, you can do worse.
Okay.
You can also get an AI girlfriend too, and you could play like D&D with all your AI girlfriends with the AI.
Yeah, you can, I guess. Yeah.
You could, but that gets expensive at that point because I do know about this. Basically, to actually use and run an AI, it has to be like pulling off of some server constantly. That's why all these AI things cost like monthly subscriptions. So you have to be paying a subscription for each of your girlfriends, and then you have to pay a subscription for your AI DM. And then at that point, it's probably easier. At that point, it's like, okay, if you're paying that much money, you probably have a job. You could probably just make friends at your job and play D&D with them.
Okay. So people will actually get AI girlfriends just to play D&D with?
Oh, well, no, I've never heard of that, but people definitely do get AI girlfriends. I've heard of people, like, it's a thing. We're getting to that level. Like, I saw a mini 20-minute documentary on this guy who was like all into having an AI girlfriend. and I was like, oh my god, like this is Her is real. Literally, that movie Her.
All right. Well, so if I can do very basic level D&D art using AI, and I can do design little minifigs using AI 3D mesh generation, and I can have a DM and other players that are AI. At what point do you actually need to play D&D yourself and not just let the AIs do all of it?
You could just make a bunch of AIs and watch them play. Listen, Dale, the whole thing with D&D is about doing what you want to do. So that you're like presenting these hypotheticals, like, oh, well, what if I just do this with you? If it's all about you wanting to play it, so if you don't want to play it, why? Then what are we talking about?
It would be a lot more convenient if I just have the AIs do it and pay the money.
But why would you do that?
There's no point in putting a strong arm someone like Dale in playing D&D.
I'm past that. I'm just like, what is this thought experiment of like, okay, you don't want to play D&D.
Joe's running too long. It's time to end the show.
Yeah, it's 12:03.
Just past noon. We started a little late.
Chuck's using
we're gonna end the show now before we start in the big D&D argument.
Exactly. Yeah, too many D&D arguments. That's the problem with D&D. It gets people very passionate.
You want to see what I was working on?
Yes, I saw you were working on some 3D modeling.
Phil, it was great talking to
you.
Do
you want to pull up Dale's 3D model?
Sometime.
Wait, Dad.
We're a bit off.
All right, I'll do it.
With the audio today because we were talking over each other all the time. But yeah. Oh, there we go. Is that what you've done,
Dale's 3D model that he made?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's on the printer right now while we were talking. It's probably going to take another 3 hours for it to print, if it prints properly.
Hey, what printer do you use?
I have done all the research, and I used to have a Prasa and a Formlabs, but I'm totally lazy, and all I want to do is print little doodles. So I have a Bamboo A1 Mini with a 0.02 nozzle, which is very popular for printing Dungeons and Dragons figures if you don't want to be involved with resin. But what I do is I've been now doing little spaceships. So I did a flying saucer, and I got a chrome paint pen, and I did a little rocket ship the other day, which I've painted with a chrome paint pen.
Could you tell me the name of that again? I want to check it out. The name of the printer.
Okay. The name of the printer is the Bamboo A1 Mini. And if you're interested in printing minifigs, you want to, oh God, what's the name of it? There's a guy who has a bunch of videos specifically about using it for minifigs. And let me find it for you. It's, Tomb of 3D Printed Horrors. So look up on YouTube, Tomb of 3D Printed Horrors, Bamboo A1 Mini.
All right.
We'll talk about the settings and the nozzle.
Right, that's D&D reference.
Yes, the guy prints D&D figs, and he has a company called Fat Dragon Games where you can buy and download FDM file. Buy and download 3D files to print their figures. And
I'll check that out.
And remember that plastic, until we find life on another planet, plastic is the most valuable commodity in the universe, far more valuable than gold or diamonds. So treasure your little 3D printed figures.
That sounds like an awesome thing.
Although I think we have found life on another planet, so that might be good. I did my drawing of Chandra here.
Yay!
Do me a favor and send that to me in
put myself in a big window.
Yeah, send that to me.
No.
Yes. All right, give me a day or two to get it scanned in and everything, but there she is. She came out quite good. I basically just copied yours. I gave her a little background there. I don't know. Dale was on at me to do more backgrounds
Yeah,
recently.
more backgrounds.
All right.
I don't do that.
All right. Yeah, I might tweak her a bit more as well. All right, and let's see what Phil got up to there. You
Here
did
we
it.
go.
You were working on the
Nice.
lich.
You don't
Here we
use
go.
this
This
is
is
all
as
out
far
of
as
your
I
head,
got.
Phil? You don't use reference?
No, I don't use reference.
Very nice.
I do not use reference.
Nice work.
I just draw what I feel like drawing.
I dig.
Here we go.
Love it. Great. Well, Phil, that was really fun talking to you. I guess I'm going to end the show now.
All right.
And just final reminder, anybody who's still watching, that the Kickstarter for Astro Kitty and Urfspace starts on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, I'm going to launch it. So I'm going to end the show. I'm going to end the show with the Astro Kitty video, and go on over there and follow the project and subscribe now, please.
Come on, guys. Really